Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales, proudly presented by Membrane. This podcast is your gateway to mastering the craft of modern selling. If you're passionate about growth, impact, and unlocking full potential in sales and revenue, you're in the right place. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And now let's get started with today's guest. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. Today I'm joined by Maggie Zwierko. Maggie's a life sciences expert, a PhD, a sales strategist, and author of an upcoming book, Unlocking Hidden Growth. She has spent more than 2 decades helping pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device organizations improve how they engage customers, collaborate internally, and ultimately drive better patient outcomes. In this conversations, we're going to explore the hidden growth opportunities that exist beyond traditional sales, why engagement matters more than ever, and how better processes can unlock both revenue and innovation in healthcare. So let's dive in with Maggie Z. And we are live. Well, not quite live. This is recorded, but we are ready to rock with Maggie Zwierko. How the heck you doing?
Doing great. So excited to be on your show, Paul.
I'm excited to have you. Should it be Margot or Maggie?
Oh, what do you like?
What do I like? Mags.
Let's go for Mags.
Magster. Mag Dog, the Magster.
Yeah.
Getting down with the truth be told, we've known each other for quite a bit now and have a lot of fun when we talk. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. Was it almost 5 years probably?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
5 years. Let's go back. No, we won't go back until when we first met, but let's go back all of 15 seconds and talk about what we were talking about in the green room, what we're going to get started, and what we're going to talk about today, which is life sciences. So you have a specialty, and it's sales or revenue generation, and you're focused heavily on life sciences. How on earth did you get to that specialty?
Well, I grew up in pharma starting as a pharmaceutical sales rep. And that was back in the day when things were different, much different than they are now, before the Affordable Care Act, before the healthcare system conglomerates. But just growing up for 20 years in that industry, which would be pharma, biotech, med device, but started as a sales rep. Worked as a sales leader for big companies like GlaxoSmithKline, mid-sized startups, and then moved on to the medical side, actually. So they have medical teams that are in the field. They are not promoting a product, but they are the experts on the molecule, on the therapeutic area, and they really help clinicians think through trials and research to really help the patients. So even though we all know every conversation is still selling, it's really it was very interesting to me to kind of see both sides in that industry. So my passion truly is life science. And now just being on the consulting side, I do feel that if we can get the teams that are in the field to engage better, I call it engagement versus sales, just engage better, have better conversations. I mean, the end goal is to help the patients in the end. So.
Well, I'm going to take you a little even farther back than that, because I think a wonderful, fascinating part of the story is kind of your athletics and what even got you interested in the life sciences and medical. And I'm speaking with a doctor right now currently. That's correct, right? Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes. One of those D's, a PhD. I once had my kid asked me, Dad, what's a D? Doesn't PH make the sound?
Well, my kids are not a doctor, and because they have friends whose parents are MDs, and I'm like, the PhD is the doctor of science. The only reason they can practice what they practice is because of what we do. And they're like, my mom's a doctor of science. So now I got them on the right path.
Nice. Well, so yeah, just give a little more background on that, because I love how you got started. It's a great, phenomenal athlete and getting working and understanding life sciences and exercises. I think that's some good background to give. So
Well, I'm obsessed with the body in terms of just learning the body. I have a master's in exercise physiology
Hmm.
and just starting in sports. I have two older brothers, and my father used to have the Arnold Schwarzenegger books. He was like the big fitness guru, and we had like a weight set in our living room, literally.
Hmm.
So I fell in love with just, you know, learning how to perfect your body for performance. And luckily, the blessing is we didn't have a lot of money. I know I say that. That's interesting. We didn't have a lot of money as a family. And so our athletic ability was kind of like, hey, like you could work on this, and this could be your avenue to pay for school and stuff. It was not like a lot of pressure. And I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. So I just
Hmm.
put a lot more effort into just practicing basketball, practicing getting stronger. And so I ended up getting a scholarship to play basketball. So I did that for 4 years at Canisius College. It's in Buffalo. And that went great. During that time, I was thinking about what are the next steps. And I had taken a minor in exercise science. And there was a hospital. I was in Buffalo, New York. There was a hospital called Sisters Hospital, like right next to the college. And so I was able to get an internship there in the hospital in cardiac rehab. So I was working with the patients and putting things into practice like blood pressure, heart rate
Hmm.
monitoring. And I loved it. And I said, well, I want to figure out how I can continue this learning. And so I started applying to grad school, and I was going to work to be a strength coach. And I said, well, I'll be a strength coach because I love sports. But then I was contacted by this professor who's my best friend now, which is really interesting because she played basketball at the University of Connecticut. So
Hmm.
she reached out
Oh,
to me,
wow.
and she was doing research at the time in blood pressure, and her background was in cardiac rehab. So we just connected, and she basically took me on. It's kind of like you get hired as a graduate assistant. So they took me on as a graduate assistant to work on a trial for the American Heart Association. And really that was the end, because then I became a researcher, and I loved that piece because I felt I could really help a larger portion of the population. And what's really cool is that research is used for the exercise guidelines for blood pressure to this day. So, so yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
athletic kind of brought me into the love for the body, which brought me into grad school, which meeting the right people. And actually, how I got my first sales job was because I was selling exercise for so long, right? Exercise is medicine,
Hmm.
exercise is health. And they said I didn't have any sales experience, right? Who's heard that a number of times? If you don't have the
Hmm.
experience, you can't get the job. I hear that all the time now, but it's how you take your experience and say, and I was like, that's absolutely not true. Like, I sell exercise, which is a lot harder than selling a pill. And they were like, you're right. Come on in.
Dude, I got my first one by saying in sales by saying, well, I teach college kids. So I think I'm selling something because most of them are getting good grades and I'm not just handing them out.
Oh gosh.
But
No, I did that too. And it is tough. So I didn't know you did that.
yeah, long time ago. Long time ago. But so you have an awesome and varied background and you're diving in. I didn't know the Arnold stuff. I think I should probably do the rest of the interview in terms of
With your voice.
my Arnold my
Oh
Arnold
gosh. Have you ever been to
accent. I'm
Venice
giant. I
Beach?
have huge. Yeah, I've met Arnold. He's a good guy. He's a massive guy. He's huge. He was a little older when I met him, but he just did the strong man and gave me an arm, and he said, "This is giant." Sorry.
Did you really meet him?
I met Arnold once. Yeah, I met
Oh,
him once at he does the Arnold Classic every year here in Columbus,
oh,
and
is that
so I got to go at the time I was working in some nonprofit circles, and I got to go to one of the nonprofit fundraisers that he came, and it was literally like a, wow, you're really cool. Nice to meet you. And he walked by, like he was like one of those things, like it's a magnet. People just right
yes.
to him. They just all want to see his giant biceps. They're huge. And this is probably a terrible accent, but it's fine. It's the first time I've used it on the art and science of complex sales. But hey, so let's get into life science. Let's get into engagement. Let's get into selling in there. And one of the things that I don't want to pass up as well in your background is the SalesStar journey and sales process and the growth in hidden growth journey is like understanding the the thoughts behind a sales process and being able to apply that to all different areas. One of the things you say is that life sciences thinks they have sales processes, but they don't. Right. And so what do you mean by that?
Thank you for saying that. But by the way, they don't like to hear that. So
Oh, sorry. I'm
I've
sorry,
learned that part.
everybody.
No, that's okay. I tell them still all of the time. And anyone who might be watching, it's just a change of language, right? What people might think one word means, they just have another definition for it. So what I've found now, I grew up in the industry, and so I had a certain thought process as well. And what's amazing about SalesStar is SalesStar truly has brought the science behind sales, and they have really dug in underneath of like what it truly is and created processes. But then not only that, what's most important is that those things are built together. They're built on best practice. So, but as a scientist, this is one thing that I fell in love with SalesStar, their methodology, and the fact that it brings in psychology. So that's the best way to do it, right? And I always used this phrase as a personal trainer. I would say, well, I can bring you to water, but I can't make you drink. I can give you the best, but I can't make you do it. And that's so hard. But just back to your question in terms of life sciences. So when I'm talking to a life science director, VP of sales, and I say, do you have a sales process? Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd love to hear what it is. And typically what the answer is I like to kind of boil it down to PPSC. And it was one that we used at a pharma company I worked for. PPSC. Okay. Patient, problem, solution, close. It's a conversation. It's a point in time. It's a method. It's a sales method, right? Mm-hmm. You can talk about the patient. You talk about the problem that the patient has. The solution is your product, obviously, and how that works. And then you close for the business or how they're going to use that. So that is typically what they see as their process. That's their sales process. But what the miss is in that, which truly I have now seen being able to bring this into the life science space, is that what happens before, which they might call pre-call plan, but what happens before, like your account discovery, your account profiling, your internal conversations. How do you show up the most prepared so that you can ask the right questions, gain the best insights, and kind of move along this path? So that's building what that looks like is part of the process. There's conversations in between. PPSC happens at different points within the process. Mm-hmm. But you're meeting the client's needs, the customer's needs, and really where their pains are. There's more after that, right? There's more after those conversations. How do I follow up? How do I communicate internally? How do I continue to strategize? How do I ensure all the people in the account are taken care of? Which is why we do love Membrane, because it allows us to see all the stakeholders and their influence very easily.
Ooh, a not so subtle Membrane pitch. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, no, we work together really well on being able to map this stuff and being able to do that, which is great. And we've talked even a whole lot about, so there are these official sales roles, right? But that's not necessarily where all the hidden revenue is in this area. So why don't you dive into that concept? Because I know there is, you have, like a VP director sales and that type of stuff, but when we're really looking at that whole ecosystem, there's some very unique things about it that you can unlock a whole lot of hidden revenue in.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are those other roles that are super important to the company that help the customer. And to blanket it, I call it like subject matter experts. In life sciences, there are subject matter experts in the medical piece, which is like all the clinical trials, the therapeutic area, how that goes across for, products have FDA approval for certain disease, but they also work for other diseases that aren't approved yet. Somebody has to know that information. So those people are subject matter experts around that. They're called medical science liaisons. But okay. There's also subject matter experts for patient advocacy. And how do they go into, there's people in the field that go into the accounts to learn how they can help the patient. And that's, not only access, meaning how do they get it paid for? How do they get it in their hands? Also, like there's all these other side effects potentially, right? Like think about cancer, right?
Mhm.
Side effects management, just physical care management. So anyways, that's the patient side. Then you have market access. Market access, these are experts that understand, like you have insurance, right? When you go to the hospital, the doctor, there's certain coverage, but there's a whole piece of how that happens that the companies have to do on their own, whether it's
Mhm.
covered by the government, which would be Medicare, Medicaid, or by your insurance, your Blue Cross, your Anthem, right? In the different plans. That's a whole process in itself. So, anyways, those are the subject matter experts, and they go to speak to customers. And so, there's the sales teams that promote the product. They know the product, how it works. They know the PI, which is the prescribing information, and they can share that. They can share the resources, the patient education, but they actually, from a compliance standpoint, can't share all the other stuff I just talked about. So these other people in the field are talking to customers, which could be the doctor, which could be office managers, which could be the C-suite within a hospital system. And all of that matters because it's not as easy as this is the best product and the doctor gets to write it. There's like a whole thing, like all those pieces I just shared that make a difference on whether we're going to be able to use that product or whether it works for that patient. So if you have a system where those team members have a process, are coached
Mhm.
on how to better have a conversation. That's why I call it engagement. How do I engage? They're not selling. They're asking questions. They're understanding. They're able to meet the need that they can offer from their role, and they can do it better. Now, how they bring that back internally is even more important, and that's where the hidden growth comes from because that's where the biggest gaps are. And a lot of companies, and I won't go into it, but a lot of companies are trying to look to AI to fill that gap right now, which there's some potential good pieces that might work, but there's without something built in the physical with best practice, they will fall short.
Mhm. Well, it seems like, and what fascinates me about this is twofold. One, it seems like the ultimate account growth puzzle. Like, and you have compliance regulations and all of that are in here that force you to behave a little bit differently. Um, and I get why some of those are in. So that's one. But two, like if you look at it ultimately, it becomes a massive inhibitor, not just to growth. If we can't unlock that, it's an inhibitor to growth and revenue, but it's also an inhibitor to actually serving people with the right use of the right drug at the right time, and or the right device at the right time. Like that can be a massive barrier to that. Am I right?
Oh my gosh. This is so back to like my passion is trying to do what's best for people. And I'm
Yeah.
going to give you this story is in a book that I have kind of around this topic, but this one really hit me and it's driven me to kind of work in this space because the patient, like if I were this patient, so
Mhm.
there's a cancer called glioblastoma. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you any more than that.
It's
Or
brain,
the fact that I have heard it once.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
brain cancer.
Okay.
It's um rare, thankfully, but there's not a lot of treatments. Like the prognosis is not good.
Mhm.
And, finding treatments that are going to extend someone's quality of life, meaning I get more time with my kids or my family, I get to go on vacation still, or just my quantity of life. Like instead of 1 year, can it be 2? But the prognosis is not good. And there isn't any cure. And, we've found a lot of cures for cancer, many cancers, and that's like amazing, thankfully. But with glioblastoma, that's not the case, and patients really suffer. So here's an example of this uh, teams that are in conversations with providers who are the doctors. The doctors are amazing because they are practicing doing what they know that they can do, but then also they're trying to research and figure out in situations like this, what else can we do? Like when I really think about the molecules and what's out there, can we try anything? Because literally this person's going to die. It's not like
Yeah.
we're talking about diabetes, right? So this one instance, this group was using a product that was not like approved for glioblastoma, but that's how research comes out. And they were using this product with a lot of success. So my company had this product and they wanted to get some, maybe they call it an investigator initiated trial, so they can basically work with the company maybe to get some funding and or free product to treat more patients. Because like, who's going to pay for the product if the patient can't pay for it, if it's not covered, all of that. And so then this person who might be in this conversation, if it were me or somebody else, they are now tasked with, that's not their job, technically, right? Technically, that's not in the job description.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to, right? If you have the right heart and you have the right instinct, like this is for the betterment of people and care and maybe changing the way care works, you got to bring it back to the company. But the companies, because of what we're saying, this hidden growth, aren't set up to take in that information most of the time. Well, who's it go to? I had to call like 10 different people, but that's not their job. And then it gets lost because the phone calls stop and no one gets back to you, so it becomes really hard. So this is what drove me that, oh my gosh, are you saying that because we don't have processes set for the person in the field or internally, like who's the loser? We all are, the patients, right? The future of medicine can be shifted in a like how simple is that? It's like a grain of sand. If we can do any little thing to help a patient live longer, better quality of life, when we have products already available, they're just not known, then I think that's worth a lot of effort. And so that story and the fact that patients were dying and there were opportunities to help quantity and quality of life, I said this, and it's blocked by a system, then I want to work on that. I want to try to help fix some of the systems for those who are interested.
That's awesome. Because I hear, and I know you, so I know your heart, and I know like how important that is to you, and one of the core motivators. But I also say that when we say growth, it's growth in the impact. I mean, it can be growth. We're unlocking some revenue growth, but also growth in the impact of potential cures to help people across the world. So you are taking this into a book, and so I would love to hear a little bit about that and just kind of your thought processes and some of what you're trying to achieve with the book.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. Yeah. So the book is called Unlocking Hidden Growth, and it's associated with my other company and website called hiddengrowthgroup.com. But basically it's distilled down over the years to be very strategic and applicable of how do we at a life science company try to think about these roles and what do we do about it? Like, how do we get, like the story I just shared with you, because I have a business background and I'm in the field, like it, and I had the sales background, like it made it easier for me in those conversations because I was connecting the dots and I understood how the business side worked in the company. And that's not always the case because we want really smart people in those roles. And they may have been a doctor, they may have been a bench researcher. So they're not like coming at it the same place. So we need to teach them and train them. And those things are not in place. So the book is about like, how do we start from a very, very, very simple standpoint at a company with how do we get these teams? What are the basic steps? And there's 3 steps that kind of are outlined. And then there's worksheets. And one is role to goal, which is the role knowing what the goal of the company is and how that relates back to them on a day-to-day from a tactical standpoint. Role to role. So I have a role. I need to understand my internal counterparts, what they're doing and how it interrelates so that I can best communicate quickly, efficiently. And I know the guardrails because we talked about compliance and firewalls.
Yeah.
And I need to know it and I need to be comfortable enough to when I can and when I can't. And then the last one is role to soul, which is realization of what matters to me. Like, why do I care? Like, what passions do I have that I can bring that just transform anything else? So role to goal, role to role to soul. And if you can package those, that again, this is like the beginning, you're in a much better place than just go out there and be smart and come back with some insights, which is literally the way life sciences works right now.
Well, and then I think you could have Another chapter. We'll co-author it, System to Soul. Like how does creating a great information system and sales process and all that actually help you with that? Because that's one of the
Well,
things. Yeah, that's one of the things that I
I
find
had
that
to put that in the book, Paul, because
what?
I agree with you. So actually,
Yeah.
membrane is in the book.
Oh, no way. Let's
Yes.
go.
Yes, because when you look at how you bring all of these together, there needs to be documentation. It's almost
Yeah.
like we all know from a performance standpoint, all of this is like for better performance for the company, but also for the end goal of the patient. But membrane allows the simplicity. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I always tell my clients, I said, when you first got an iPhone and you were like, oh, I don't know. But then you were like, this made my life 100 times easier. Like, and it's intuitive. Like
Mhm.
I didn't have to really get taught. Like I was just like, well, let me try. Oh yeah, that's the way I do it. That's how membrane is. It's not like you have to have a PhD in it like you do for some of the other CRMs. And you can just maneuver in it and it just gives you everything you need in a visual place so you can do the work that you need to do.
Well, I think it's so fun to when you start to finally match, what is I hate the pointing and clicking aspect of a lot of things, but when you start to match the pointing and clicking or the data structures and that type of stuff to the actual fulfillment of mission and vision of an organization, and in life sciences, that fulfillment of mission, I do understand to make money, but the bigger one is that impact and tying it to number of lives saved and information gathered and how you do that. And your work there has been pretty inspirational. I know we've worked a couple of clients together on, and I see how you work. And so, like what is the type, if you wouldn't mind just talking through, like when you engage with companies and when you engage with organizations, like what is the type of work that you're really helping them do generally?
So my work has been focused on the sales side, and it is branching into that hidden growth, the non-sales teams. But in working with these companies as SalesStar,
Mm-hmm.
what we do is come in and listen first. Typically companies are frustrated with inconsistent sales results, or they think they could be doing better. I mean, a lot of medical companies are doing good, but right, how
Mm-hmm.
much better could we do? How do we go from good to great? How do we do best in this launch? Things like that. So we come in and just help them look at what they have, who their customers are, how they can disqualify
Mm-hmm.
who they go to,
Yep.
and save time, focus their
Big
rep.
big deal.
Biggest deal, as you know, biggest deal
Yes.
is they're going everywhere, and reps in the field, they have been trained. Activity is their job, right? Meaning I just drive to all these places and that means I did my job. When the reality is more time where there can be more impact is going to be better. And how and what that means is what we do. We help them figure that out so that then the company can give more structure for the rep. And then in addition, that brings them to the sales process. Having a best practice handbook of there's always these best reps that year after year, winning, winning, winning. They have the best relationships. People love them. They just kind of get in everywhere. And it's like this unknown of why,
Mm-hmm.
but the why and what I've found since I've been working in these life science companies, every time we build the sales process of like every little step that they take, every conversation they have, how they build their accounts, what they do in the account, what they do after. Every single best rep goes, what's so interesting is what we have now is exactly what I do. I just never had it written down. And it's like
Yeah.
now it's just written. So it becomes the company's best practice handbook. And from the life science and the compliance standpoint, it also allows compliance to and the learning and development team to train to much more specifics instead of like, here's that message, go out and do it. Yeah. It's like, no, let's just tell them exactly every step, just like a recipe. So I always to try to help them understand sales process versus sales method, I use this. There's a recipe, like if I'm doing Italian, let's say I'm doing chicken parm and there's all these steps, or there's like within that, I could have a different style of the way I'm doing the chicken parm. And the style is the method. the process is all those steps.
I love it. I love it. That's a great analogy. And I probably should have thought of that way before after all these conversations, but it's actually the first time.
Oh,
It's
really?
literally the first, it's the first time I've heard that analogy on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it is. So it's a great one.
Yeah,
And you use chicken parm,
get
which is absolutely delicious.
I know.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I like it with the thin noodles, a little thinner. Not quite the angel here, but the next level up, and nice fresh tomatoes.
Yes.
It's delicious. It's so good. Well, Maggie, it has been an absolute blessing to have you on. How do people find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, so there's two good ways. One, salesstar.com/US. You can find me and email me at maggie.zwierko@salesstar.com, but then also hiddengrowthgroup.com, which I already mentioned. So you could find me there.
Awesome. And then when is this? We talked about the book. I know this is going to be a preview to everybody out there, but when should they be marking their calendars to grab this thing?
Yeah, the book is set to launch this October. It's going to be launched alongside a conference that the date isn't planned yet with the Medical Science Liaison Society. So they have a yearly conference every October. And so we've been partnered together for a while. So we're going to launch it there.
That's super exciting for you and great work. That's awesome stuff. That is awesome stuff. Well, everybody, if you're in life sciences and you're having any of the issues that Maggie described, please make sure that you're reaching out and connecting with her. She's on LinkedIn. Go to both of the websites as well. Just make sure you're connecting. There's so much more than what we're able to discuss in a 30 to 35 minute podcast, and I'd highly recommend getting to know you. Any last thoughts that you have for the audience today?
No, well, I think that last thought is, just that purpose that we said. I mean, we can love what we do, but we need to attach it to that purpose. And my purpose is that really people can live a better quality and quantity of life.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. Hey, everybody. That's a wrap for today's show. And please make sure you're doing all of the things, all of those likings and the subscribings and posting and sharing. It'd be wonderful for the podcast, wonderful to get this information out. And it's great information to get out there. And as always, keep elevating the sales profession and keep shining bright. And that's a wrap for today. We'll talk soon.